The secrets of Scottsboro. Do you know how many pieces of luggage are checked onto flights each year? I'm talking in the whole wide world. It's an unbelievable 4 billion bags. Let me repeat that just so the sheer scale sinks in. 4 billion. And of those 4 billion, do you know how many pieces of luggage are lost, damaged, or otherwise completely mishandled by airline personnel every single year in the good old US of A? 2 million. 2 million families opening an empty baggage carousel. Now, while most of those suitcases and rollers eventually find their way back home, there is a dark, forgotten percentage, over 20,000 pieces of luggage every year, that vanish into thin air. They disappear from the systems. They are abandoned by the airlines, and they are left behind to gather dust. Not to mention the countless bags left on long-distance buses, trains, and taxis or abandoned hotel rooms. Where do you think all that lost luggage actually ends up? Most folks couldn't tell you. They assume it gets thrown away, burned, or locked in some secret airport basement. But when you're a kid growing up in northeastern Alabama, you know exactly where it goes. It all lands in a small town called Scottsboro, at the Unclaimed Baggage Center. Around here, we just call it unclaimed baggage. Every single year, thousands of bargain hunters and curious customers pass through our doors looking for cheap deals on clothes, electronics, jewelry, and just about anything else you can possibly imagine. But before a single one of those items ever reaches the bright lights of the sales floor, it has to pass through a specific department. It comes through us. I work in intake. When a new truckload arrives at the loading dock, we are the very first human beings to touch the remnants of these lost lives. We unload the heavy crates, log the tags, sort the contents, and decide what can actually be salvaged and sold. Most bags are completely boring. Sure, you'll get the occasional wedding dress or a poorly taxidermied squirrel, but 99% of the time, it's just endless piles of worn t-shirts, dirty socks, and cheap phone chargers. It quickly turns into absolute routine. The dust of the world hangs heavy in the air of the warehouse, while you mechanically rip open zipper after zipper. But I say most bags are boring because there are exceptions. There are pieces of luggage that get specifically flagged by the system or by authorities before they ever reach our hands. Items with warnings stamped across them. Luggage that makes the hairs on your arms stand up before you even open it. The unicorn camera and the flagged bag. Yesterday was one of those days. It was late in the shift. The sun was dropping fast behind the Alabama hills, and exhaustion was settled deep in my bones. A fresh truck backed up to the bay, and hidden beneath dozens of normal suitcases was a matte black, heavy hardshell case. It was sealed tight with a thick, neon red airline security zip tie, and it carried a sticker I had never seen in all my years on the job. No flight number, no destination barcode, just a cryptic alphanumeric string and a stamp that read, "Property of Airline. Do not open without direct authorization." My heart did a sudden violent thud against my ribs. In intake, curiosity is a disease. Ignoring the internal warnings, I reached for my box cutter, sliced the red seal, and popped the latches open. Inside there was practically nothing. No clothes, no toiletries, no shoes. Just a single object resting perfectly in the center, embedded in cheap custom foam. A small, brightly painted children's camera shaped like a unicorn. It looked completely innocent, almost ridiculous, resting inside that heavy security case. But the moment I reached out and touched the plastic casing, a jolt of pure ice shot straight up my arm. The material felt unnaturally cold, like it had been sitting in a freezer, even though the warehouse air was thick and sweltering. The small glass lens of the unicorn stared up at me like a dead black eye. Every survival instinct told me to log the case, slam it shut, and bury it. But a heavy pit formed in my stomach. Something was horribly wrong. This little toy contained a secret that was never supposed to see the light of day. What the lens saw, I couldn't help myself. During a quiet moment when the supervisor left the floor, I retreated to the back corner of the break room and switched the little device on. The tiny screen flickered weakly to life. There were only a few video files stored on the memory card, all stamped with the exact same date from 2 weeks ago. I pressed play. What I saw will haunt my nightmares for the rest of my days. The footage was shaky, heavily distorted, and filmed in absolute, breathless panic. The angle was low, as if whoever held it was keeping it hidden down by their knees. It was the interior of a commercial airplane cabin, but it wasn't a normal flight. The main cabin lights were completely dark, and the only thing illuminating the passengers was the periodic, rhythmic pulsing of the red emergency strip lights, or rather, illuminating what was left of them. The passengers were frozen, sitting upright in their seats with their heads snapped violently back at impossible angles. And then came the audio, a deep, wet, metallic coughing sound echoed through the static. It didn't sound human, it sounded like a dying piece of machinery tearing itself apart from the inside. The lens slowly panned toward the center aisle. Moving through the red gloom was a silhouette, a woman with long blonde hair. But her movements were entirely wrong. Her limbs jerked and twitched, as if she were a puppet being pulled by invisible strings. Every time she exhaled, the camera's audio track erupted in intense static distortion. The video cut out abruptly with a deafening thud and the sound of shattering glass. I sat there shivering, staring at the black screen. I couldn't handle this alone. I decided to hide the camera deep in an intake bin and show it to my coworker Shelley first thing in the morning. The coughing woman, I didn't sleep a single wink. The minute the clock struck 5 a.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I drove out to the facility hours before my shift was supposed to start. The morning sun hadn't even broken the horizon when I unlocked the heavy metal door. The warehouse was dead silent, filled with a suffocating, eerie stillness. I practically sprinted to the shelf where I'd hidden the unicorn camera the night before. I dug through the boxes. Empty. I checked the massive salvage bins nearby. Absolutely nothing. Panic clawed at my throat. My mind was spinning out of control. Just then, the distant crunch of gravel outside broke the silence. Headlights swept across the frosted windows. It was Shelley. I threw the side door open and intercepted her before she could even turn off her engine. She rolled down the window, gave my pale, trembling face a long look and sighed. "You look like absolute shit," she said bluntly, pulling the key from the ignition. "Yeah, thanks," I deflected, my voice cracking. "Hey, did you happen to see a little unicorn camera that came in with the late hardshell bag yesterday?" Shelley stepped out of the car, swinging her bag over her shoulder. "Yeah, I saw it. What about it?" A massive wave of relief washed over me. I let out a long breath I didn't realize I was holding. "Thank God. Where is it now?" Shelley brushed right past me, walking briskly toward the main staff entrance. I struggled to keep pace, the adrenaline spiking through my veins again. "Some lady from the airline came by yesterday evening looking for it," she called back over her shoulder. I froze mid-step. The world seemed to stop spinning. "A lady? What lady?" I demanded. "How should I know? Some blonde lady wearing an airline uniform." My heart was hammering like a trapped bird now. "Tell me you didn't give it to her, Shelley." She stopped walking and turned around, her expression a mix of annoyance and confusion. "Why do you care so much? What's so special about a piece of plastic junk?" I opened my mouth to tell her about the cabin, the passengers, and the red lights, but my throat locked up. No sound came out. Shelley stared at my terrified expression, her eyes widening slightly. Look, what did you expect me to do? She had all the matching paperwork, knew the exact tracking number, and said it was her personal property. And the poor thing sounded awful, so I just... Awful how? I interrupted, my voice barely a whisper. She couldn't stop coughing, Shelley said with a shrug, turning back to the door. A really deep, dry, nasty cough. She looked completely out of it. The weird thing was, she didn't care whether the clothes or anything else was in that suitcase. She only wanted that camera. Shelley walked inside, the door clicking shut behind her. But I stayed rooted to my spot on the freezing asphalt, completely unable to move. The cold Alabama wind cut right through my jacket. The airline didn't send someone to claim lost property. They sent someone to erase the evidence. They wanted to make sure nobody ever found out what happened on that flight. And the absolute worst part? That coughing blonde woman. She didn't work for the airline. She was the thing in the video, and she knows someone opened her bag. What do you think was really happening on that flight? Was it a secret government experiment gone wrong? A terrible accident, or something completely unnatural waiting in the cargo hold? And who or what do you think that coughing woman actually was? Let me know your most terrifying theories in the comments below. If this story gave you chills, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive horror encounter. And be careful with your luggage the next time you fly. You never know who might be waiting to open it.